April 14th, 1988. The Persian Gulf lies hot and tense under the blazing Middle Eastern sun. Oil tankers pass nervously through these waters, escorted by the powerful warships of the United States Navy. Among them is the guided missile frigate USS Samuel B. Roberts, an Oliver Hazard Perry-class ship carrying hundreds of American sailors who know that every mile of this route is dangerous. For 7 long years, Iran and Iraq have been locked in a brutal war, a conflict that has devastated both countries and spilled into the Gulf itself. This phase of the conflict is known as the Tanker War, a campaign where both Iran and Iraq attack commercial oil tankers, hoping to choke each other's economies and pressure the world into supporting their cause. The Gulf has become a deadly chessboard, littered with mines, patrolled by warships, and overshadowed by the constant threat of sudden attack. To protect freedom of navigation and ensure oil supplies for the world economy, the United States launched Operation Earnest Will, reflagging Kuwaiti tankers under the American flag and escorting them with naval convoys. It is a high-risk mission. Every day, sailors know they may face missiles, mines, or swarms of small attack boats. On that afternoon of April 14th, the lookouts on the Roberts notice strange objects floating in the water. At first, they believe it might be dolphins, playful shapes breaking the waves in the distance. But as the frigate draws closer, the shapes resolve into something far more sinister. Large, dark spheres half-submerged just beneath the surface. They are naval mines, deadly weapons planted by Iran to terrorize shipping lanes. Each one carries hundreds of pounds of high explosives, waiting for an unsuspecting vessel to make contact. Commander Paul Rinn, the captain of the Roberts, instantly realizes the danger. He orders his ship to slow and back away. But before the maneuver can be completed, fate intervenes. A thunderous explosion rips through the hull as the Roberts strikes a mine. The blast tears a massive hole, throws sailors from their feet, and fills compartments with smoke, fire, and seawater. The ship lurches violently. For a moment it seems certain that the Roberts will be lost. Chaos erupts, but discipline and training take over. Damage control teams race to seal off flooded compartments. Firefighters battle blazes that threaten to spread from one deck to another. Engineers scramble to keep the ship's systems alive. Through the night, the crew fights not only for their vessel, but for their own survival. Against all odds, they succeed. By morning, the Roberts is battered but afloat. Miraculously, there are no fatalities, though 10 sailors suffer injuries. The crew's determination saves their ship, a feat later studied as a model of crisis management at sea. Navy divers recover fragments of the exploded mine. When examined, the serial numbers lead directly back to Iran. The message is unmistakable. Tehran is behind the attack. In Washington, President Ronald Reagan is briefed. He calls the incident the final straw. The United States cannot allow such aggression to go unanswered. A powerful retaliation is ordered, one that will cripple Iran's ability to threaten shipping in the Gulf. The operation is given a symbolic name, Operation Praying Mantis. The American response is immense. 3 separate surface action groups, known as SAGs, are assembled. Each group consists of destroyers, frigates, and supporting vessels armed with missiles, guns, and helicopters. Their missions are clearly defined. SAG Bravo will strike the Sasan and Raksh oil platforms, which Iran has turned into surveillance and military outposts. SAG Charlie will destroy the Siri platform, another fortified base used for coordination. SAG Delta will hunt down and destroy Iranian warships that attempt to intervene. Overhead, the giant aircraft carrier USS Enterprise stands ready, its decks loaded with F-14 Tomcats, A-6 intruder strike jets, and electronic warfare aircraft. The full might of American sea power is converging on the Gulf April 18, 1988. At dawn, the operation begins. The calm surface of the Persian Gulf is broken by the roar of jet engines. American planes lift off from the Enterprise and sweep low over the horizon. At the same time, the warships of SAG Bravo close in on the Sasan and Raksh platforms. These platforms, once used for oil production, have long since been converted by Iran into fortified bases bristling with weapons. Over radio, the Americans issue a warning. Personnel are ordered to evacuate immediately. Instead of complying, Iranian Revolutionary Guards open fire with machine guns and mortars. The U.S. Navy responds with overwhelming force. Destroyers launch shells, helicopters fire rockets, and Marines pour fire into the structures. Explosions engulf the platforms. Towers collapse in fireballs. Thick black smoke rises high into the sky as the once mighty outposts crumble into ruins. Meanwhile, Saggy Charlie moves on the Siri platform. Once again, the Americans warn before striking. Once again, the response is hostile fire. And once again, the United States answers with crushing power. Within minutes, the Siri installation is reduced to twisted metal and flames. The first phase of Operation Praying Mantis is complete. But the Iranians are enraged. They cannot allow this humiliation to stand. From their ports, Iranian naval vessels surge into the Gulf. Swarms of small gunboats dart forward, their crews determined to harass the American ships. Larger warships prepare to challenge the intruders head-on. The first direct confrontation comes with the missile boat Joshan. Small but dangerous, armed with powerful anti-ship missiles, it closes on the American task group. The U.S. issues repeated warnings: turn back, do not engage. The Iranian captain ignores them. He launches a harpoon missile at the U.S. fleet. In seconds, the Americans retaliate. Multiple destroyers lock on and fire a coordinated volley of standard missiles. Bright streaks tear across the sky. Explosions consume the Joshan. The small vessel is blasted apart, broken into burning fragments that sink beneath the waves. But the battle is far from over. Iran dispatches one of its largest warships, the frigate Sahand, to confront the Americans. The Sahand spots U.S. aircraft and fires missiles in their direction. The Americans react instantly. Two A-6 intruders from VA-95 Squadron lock on to the Sahand. They unleash harpoon missiles and laser-guided bombs. The strikes hit with lethal accuracy. Explosions erupt across the Sahand's deck. Flames race through the compartments. Ammunition cooks off in deadly bursts. The frigate begins to list heavily, smoke pouring into the sky. Finally, the Sahand slips beneath the sea, destroyed in one of the most dramatic moments of the battle. Not long after, another Iranian frigate, the Sabalan, enters the fight. Determined to strike a blow for Iran, the Sabalan launches missiles at American aircraft. But like its sister ship, it finds itself outmatched. A U.S. A-6 intruder lines up and drops a precision bomb directly into the ship's funnel. The weapon detonates deep inside, wrecking the machinery spaces and crippling the vessel. The Sabalan is left burning and dead in the water. Only by towing is it saved from sinking outright. It never fully recovers from the damage. As the day ends, the scale of the American victory becomes clear. Iran has suffered devastating losses. One frigate, the Sahand, lies at the bottom of the Gulf. Another, the Sabalan, is crippled. The missile boat Joshan has been obliterated. Multiple oil platforms have been destroyed. Countless smaller craft have been sunk or driven off. The United States, by contrast, has lost only 2 sailors, killed in a tragic helicopter crash unrelated to enemy fire. The battle is among the most one-sided in modern naval history. Operation Praying Mantis stands as the largest surface naval engagement the United States has fought since World War II. In just one day, the Iranian Navy has been reduced to half its size. Its ability to project power in the Gulf has been broken. The message is unmistakable. Any attack on American ships will be met with overwhelming and decisive force. In the months that follow, Iran becomes increasingly cautious. The shock of the operation reverberates through its leadership. Just 4 months later, in August 1988, Iran and Iraq finally accept a ceasefire, ending their 8-year war. Many historians believe the overwhelming display of U.S. power during Operation Praying Mantis was a major factor that pushed Iran toward peace. Today, the operation is remembered not only as a military victory, but as a turning point in modern naval warfare. It demonstrated the effectiveness of combined surface and air power, the precision of guided weapons, and the importance of control over strategic waterways. For the sailors who lived it, the day was a test of skill, courage, and endurance. For the world, it was a reminder of how quickly a conflict can escalate and how devastating modern naval combat can be. Operation Praying Mantis remains etched in history as a day when the U.S. Navy asserted its dominance, protected global trade, and showed the consequences of challenging its might at sea.
The Wainwright, Simpson, and Bagley finish it off with gunfire before they are ordered to disengage. At this time, SAG Bravo has been ordered to cancel its assault on the Rakesh oil platform. American Middle East Command is growing uneasy at the expanding scope of the operation, and instead seek to de-escalate the situation. Yet, at 1 p.m, the guided missile destroyer USS Joseph Strauss of SAG Delta detects the radar of an Iranian SAM-class frigate, the target that the Americans have been waiting for. However, there is hesitation on whether to go after the vessel. The US Navy has already sunk an enemy warship, and there is no visual contact. Admiral Less orders the target to be identified first before any attack is planned. The reserve A-7 Corsair aircraft aboard the Enterprise are launched and ordered to stand by for any enemy contact. At 2:40 p.m, one of the earlier launched A-6s, piloted by Deputy Carrier Air Group Commander Bud Langston, is searching for the target. Flying at 15,000 feet, Langston spots something below and dives through the clouds to just 50 feet above the waters of the Straits of Hormuz for a closer look. He approaches the stern of the vessel on the port side. As he draws near, anti-aircraft guns aboard the ship open fire on his intruder, but Langston is flying so low that the gunners cannot depress their barrels enough to hit him. The A-6 buzzes the ship, and Langston confirms that he has found the Iranian frigate Sahand. Several SA-2 SAMs chase after the intruder but miss. The surface ships of SAG Delta have been tasked with destroying the Iranian frigates, but the rules of engagement of Enterprise's strike aircraft authorize them to take defensive measures if they are fired upon. Langston decides to attack the Sahand and transmits a warning over the Revolutionary Guard's channel, informing the frigate, "I'm going to sink you in 5 minutes." With no response, Langston lines up a shot with his intruder's harpoon, but the missile fails to fire. He swings around while his bombardier works through the weapon release checklist. On the second run, the harpoon drops free and ignites, accelerating towards the target. The Enterprise's flight controller checks in with Langston, to which the A-6 pilot responds that he has found the Sahand. The controller asks, "What are your intentions?" Langston replies, "Well, he shot at me. I'm now 12 miles out and I just launched a Harpoon missile. I'm waiting for it to hit." A few seconds later, the Harpoon explodes amidships and the Sahand stops dead in the water. Langston bears down on the burning ship and drops a 500-pound laser-guided bomb, which is also a direct hit. He transmits the Sahand's coordinates to another strike aircraft as he swings around for one final run, with his two 1,000-pound laser-guided Skipper bombs. The intruder lines up the shot before the bombardier releases both Skippers right above the ship. One fails to track and misses, while the other makes a direct hit on the bridge. Satisfied, Langston reports that the Sahand is sinking and turns back to base. By this time, the ships of SAG Delta are now in the area with the arriving A-7 Corsairs overhead. The USS Joseph Strauss launches another Harpoon at the Sahand, while the other A-6 and the A-7s take turns bombing the burning hulk. A combination of Skippers, Walleye television-guided bombs and Rockeye cluster bombs further devastate the pride of the Iranian Navy. In the late afternoon, the fires aboard the Sahand finally reach her magazine and the ship disappears in a violent explosion. At the same time, the Joseph Strauss detects another SAM-class frigate and vectors Commander Engler to the target. The A-6 has air-to-air refueled since Engler's earlier attack on the Iranian boghammers and still has a 500-pound bomb and Rockeyes aboard. Engler spots the other modern Iranian frigate, the Sabalan. The warship fires SAMs at the American aircraft, which miss, and Engler begins his attack. The A-6 climbs to 17,500 feet, and then dives on the Sabalan at a 35-degree angle. The anti-aircraft fire is much more intense than it was from the Sahand, but Engler presses on. He releases his bomb and pulls out of his dive while the bombardier guides the munition on target. It hits the Iranian frigate and detonates directly in the engine room. Engler circles for another run to drop cluster bombs on the burning vessel, but decides against it due to the heavy anti-aircraft fire. More A-6s with their F-14 fighter escorts arrive on station before they are called off. Defense Secretary Frank Carlucci and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Admiral William Crowe have decided to end offensive operations for the day. Crowe tells Admiral Less that "We've shed enough blood today," and the wounded Sabalan is allowed to be towed back to port. In response to the American strikes, the Iranians launched Silkworm anti-ship missile attacks against SAG Delta the evening of April the 18th, but no US ships are damaged. These events mark the culmination of the tanker war, and major hostilities in the Persian Gulf come to an end after the show of force from the United States. Nearly half of Iran's navy has been damaged or destroyed in the one-day naval war against the American Navy. The Silkworm attacks by the Iranian military are covered up by the Reagan administration in order to lessen tensions in the region and give Tehran a chance to de-escalate. Only 2 American lives are lost when an AH-6 Littlebird helicopter crashes into the Persian Gulf on the night of April the 18th. Commander James Engler is awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross by Admiral Crowe for his actions against the Iranian warships. 4 months later, on August the 20th, 1988, the governments of Saddam Hussein and Ayatollah Khomeini signed an official peace, ending the Iran-Iraq War.